This is You're Probably Right. Entertainment first, everything else is just bonus. Opinions, all ours. Sometimes backed by research, but never the final word. There are always exceptions, so take it with a grain of salt and a slight dusting of chili powder.
You know what I've been thinking lately? Why some people seem to pull response out of the world more easily than others. And I'm not just talking about beauty. I'm not just talking about status. I'm not just talking about the obvious person in the room that everybody notices because they're either taller, better looking, richer, louder, or more naturally gifted in some visible way. I mean regular life, ordinary life, hallways, workplaces, waiting rooms, family functions, meetings, stores, social settings. You ever been there and you just notice a person more than others? And they're, we all notice the 6'4" blonde hair, blue eyed guy, or the 5'9" blonde hair, blue eyed, or maybe someone who is of mixed race and very curly ringlets and beautiful tan skin, or or somebody who's deep dark, obviously African of descent and tall, or maybe someone who's really, really, really small and cute from Asia. Like, there's certain people that just stand out from the looks, their beauty, their attractiveness for this reason or that reason. So I'm not really speaking about those people, and that's why this conversation is probably a lot different than most conversations that I would normally have here. I'm more or less talking about like social settings where nobody technically is performing, but people still are constantly reacting to each other, whether they realize it or not. Because if you really watch people, and I mean really watch them, you start noticing something strange. Some people don't just get seen, they get responded to, and that's different. People talk to them differently, people open up to them faster, people comment to them more easily, people warm up around them. And then there are the people, sometimes good people, decent people, thoughtful people, who can go through life feeling half invisible. Like they're present, right? But not quite landing. Like they're there, but the world isn't fully registering them. And, um, I don't want to say, like, I made a character, I'm not a character. I had an episode and it was called about being an NPC or not being an NPC, non-playable character, right? You can Google it if you don't know. But I think that there are a lot of people who walk around day to day and they're here, but it's like, sadly, I think they come across for one reason or another as like almost filler or non-playable characters, just walking up and down, just there, just not much presence to their presence. Sorry, drinking coffee at the same time. Anyhow, and I think that feeling is a lot more common than people like to admit. A lot of people walk around feeling socially overlooked. Not necessarily hated, right? Not even necessarily disliked. Just not fully received, if that makes sense. Not fully picked up on, not fully responded to. And after a while, they start believing the whole game belongs to the naturally attractive, the socially gifted, the stylish, the charismatic, the high status. They start thinking maybe they just don't have whatever that thing is. Maybe they're too ordinary. Maybe they just don't move people. And don't think for a second I'm saying, you need to go with that game thing about peacocking or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that in a sense, or maybe the good part of that in a sense. but it goes farther and way farther beyond clothes that you put on or a scarf that you put on or a weird hat. You know what I mean? But I don't think at the same time that's just the whole story. And that's what I'm trying to get at. I think there's something else happening. I think it matters because once you understand it, you stop looking at social life like some unfair mystery that only rewards the prettiest or the loudest person in the room. You start seeing that person seeing that people respond to a whole bunch of different things. They respond to what they notice, what they can quickly read, what feels intentional, what feels safe enough to engage. That combination to me is what I'm calling social gravity. And what I want to talk about today is not how to become fake, not how to become manipulative, not how to dominate a room, not how to get cheap attention. I want to talk about how ordinary people can become more visible, more coherent, more approachable, and more memorable in a way that actually improves how the world responds to them. Because I think a lot of people are not nearly as lacking as they think. I think a lot of people are just not translating. So that's what we're here to talk about today, guys. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment purpose only. It's not for guys only. It's not only for women. It's just for us. And I like to say that, just think about me and you just drinking a cup of coffee, maybe, or tea. Or maybe we're just sitting on the beach, looking out into the waves. Or maybe we're just taking a walk, walking the dog, or just for a long drive. I'm just hanging out with you. Again, my name is MCM, Michael Charles Murray. MCM obviously for short. Plus, I think it sounds cool. Not really. Actually, my uncle thought it sounded cool. I remember that when he told me that. I think I was around 12. He's like, you have a legit rapper name, MCM. And I was like, huh? Didn't get it. I was like, what do you know about rap? But anyways, yeah, it's kind of funny where these things, when people say different things to me, that's another thing. I'm one of those people, I think differently, that pick out those little weird things in time, in history, and they come with me. I don't file them in the garbage. These are things that I regularly think about, of different comments or different ways people or things made me feel. And if I don't fully understand why, I think that's why I probably have a podcast, because these things kind of, interest me. Anyhow, now that I've gone off topic totally, check it out. Social gravity, noticeability, readability, response. Why some people pull more reaction from the world. One of the biggest mistakes people make is that they confuse attention with response. They think if somebody gets looked at, that means they've won. They think if somebody is attractive, that means they're socially powerful in every way. They think if somebody turns heads, that automatically means people feel warm around them, comfortable around them, or open with them, eager to speak with them. But those are not the same thing at all. And when I think about that, I think about a boxing match that happened, and it was crazy. It was Deontay Wilder against some guy, I think Fred. I can't I can't remember how you spell his last name or how you say it even right now. But it's a guy from England. Anyway, I watched the highlights, and these guys, there was at least 10 falls in that boxing match. I've never seen that in my life. As soon as they have the whole thing available, I'm gonna watch it, because it was just strange watching two people fight, and they were so awkward that there was these times when one guy would like fall out of nowhere or fall through the ropes when he was barely hit, and all kinds of weird stuff. But because I'm off topic and that's what I do, you guys know that. What happened was at the end of the fight, Anthony Joshua was there. He was there at the beginning, at the end, and of course the cameras are on him because they want Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder to have a boxing match. I mean, 166, 167. It's ridiculous. They're just tall boxers, way taller than back in Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson days. Mike's like barely 6 foot, and Muhammad Ali's like 6'3", and these guys are like 6'6", 6'7". Anyhow, at the end when Deontay Wilder is leaving, and I guess it's his girlfriend, I suppose, is with him and an entourage. She's in front of everybody, and she notices Anthony Joshua from far away. Anthony Joshua, as a guy, I can say he's a good-looking guy. You'd figure if a woman, was looking for an attractive guy, he'd probably be a very good example. And you can look up what Anthony Joshua looks like. But what happened was there was this look that she gave. And remember, she's in front of everybody. And then she passed. But as she passed and she's walking away from him, her body was just turning towards him. And when you read the comments of the YouTube video where this happened, it was almost like a magnet. It's like she had no choice but to turn. She didn't know, or she just assumed there was going to be a conversation between him and Deontay, but it just looks really bad if that's his girlfriend or wife or whatever. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's the type of attention that some people garner right off the bat. And I guess that's a whole different side of this, but I just wanted to kind of draw attention. So maybe check it out. Listen, some people pull eyes, but not openness. So as I said, in that case, he kind of pulled eyes for sure. Some people get looked at, but not approached. No, she didn't approach him, and that'd be crazy, that situation, right? Some people attract attention, but create tension, right? And then there are other people who may not be the most visually dominant person in the room, but people feel easier around them. They get talked to, they get included, they get comments, they get warmth. People volunteer things to them. People loosen up around them. People feel like it's safe to say what they really think. And that's a different kind of power. I wouldn't want to say that I possess it, but it feels like a normal thing that, like, when I'm in a room or around people where that kind of happens to me. And maybe that's what kind of brought this. There's a whole scenario that I don't want to talk about because of people's privacy and stuff like that. But I've just noticed these things around me, and that's why I wanted to try to look into it and try to discuss about this. Anyway, and if you're somebody who has spent a lot of your life feeling overlooked, it matters that you separate those two things, because if you don't, you'll keep staring at the most attractive person in the room and assuming they own the whole game, and they don't. Sometimes they own the visual part of it, but they don't always own the relational part of it. That distinction changes everything. So, attention versus response. Attention is being seen, response is being engaged. Some people pull eyes, some people pull conversation, and some people pull trust. So, what salience is? Now let's get into the first real piece of this. Salience. The word sounds bigger than it is, actually. All it really means is this: something stands out enough to register. That's it. Something crosses the threshold of notice. It doesn't blur it in the background. It doesn't get mentally filtered out. It catches the eye, catches the mind, or catches the nervous system enough that another person actually registers it. The most most things in life do not do that, right? Most things. Most people, most outfits, most comments, most personalities, most habits, most social presentations blur together. Not because they're worthless, but because they're weak signals. They don't break through, they don't separate themselves from the background enough to be fully noticed. Now, here's where people get dumb with this idea. As soon as they hear standout, they think the answer is to be louder, weirder, flashier, fresher, more extreme, more obvious. But that's not the answer because something can be salient in a bad way. It can stand out as awkward. It can stand out as desperate. It can stand out as confused. It can stand out as trying too hard. It can stand out as socially tone deaf. So the goal is not just attention, and that's why this is so interesting to me. The goal is useful notice. Notice that creates curiosity, notice that creates respect, notice that creates interaction, notice that gives people something clear enough to respond to. And that's very different. You know, I was talking to my daughter, who's a singer, jazz singer, also a jazz a jazz student or a music student at college in Toronto here. And I was talking to her like she has a very distinct voice. She's always had a very distinct voice. And I was talking to her about her, I guess the proper phrase would be like when she's enunciating her words. It's like if she's telling you, she's singing jazz. If you're singing jazz, we don't just want to hear you beat beep bop boop bop boop bee to the beat and yada do. You want to hear the story. So it's very important to enunciate your words so people clearly understand exactly the message that you're trying to get across. It's the difference between sounding good and also being something more to respond to the story to if you only sound good but I don't understand what you're singing, in most cases you're not going to get a tear from somebody's eye. In most cases. Now, I can say that sometimes you've heard songs in different languages and maybe they brought a tear to your eye. I can think of a song that is in the movie Django Unchained with Jamie Foxx, and there's just one song that has to do with I think it's a Mexican woman singing. I'm not sure what it is. All I know is it just sounds amazing. There's songs like that. There's a Persian song I know like that, where it's like there's a band of guys and they're on stage and maybe it's like 10 guys strumming the same song. It's a very, very common Iranian song, and maybe you should check it out. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find it pretty easily. And then there's another one from India. Um, like there's just these different songs, and maybe I should tell you what these songs are, but maybe I should pause here and find them. I think I'm gonna give you the songs. But the point is that they stand out for more than what is normal. Like you can hear music in the background. You know what I mean? Like elevator music. It's not very noticeable. It's just there filling the white, like the white noise. It's like you want to be the other thing. You want to be, there's a certain otherness about certain people's looks, certain people's behavior, certain people, the way they talk or the way that people respond to them. You understand? Yeah. And I'm not just talking about charisma. So if that's what you think, it's not that either. It probably includes it a lot of the time. So, what is salience really? It stands out enough to register. It crosses the threshold of notice, and not all attention is good intention, and the goal is useful noise, right? Why coherence matters. This is where most people lose the plot. Because even if you even if you do stand out, people are still asking another question almost instantly. Does this make sense? Does this feel intentional? Does this person look put together or thrown together? Does it look like his mom dressed him? As I like to say when I look at some of the comments, I say, oh, yeah, my mom put that up for me. I just wear whatever she puts up. um, does their energy match what they're presenting, or is something off? And that's where coherence comes in. You see, coherence is what makes people feel like what they're seeing belongs together. It feels deliberate. It feels aligned. It feels like the person meant to show up that way. It doesn't feel random. It doesn't feel like they grabbed 5 disconnecting signals and smashed them together, hoping one of them would land. And coherence matters way more than people think. A bold person who looks coherent can come across as confident. A bold person who looks messy can come across as compensating. A stylish person who feels grounded can seem magnetic. A stylish person who feels thirsty can seem insecure. You see, there is a difference. And that's why two people can wear something equally noticeable and get completely different reactions. Because people are not just reading the items, right? They are reading the whole presentation, the fit, the grooming, the posture, the voice, the comfort level, the congruence. They're reading whether it feels owned. And if it feels owned, it lands totally different. Even if I say it like that, right? Like, let's say I just say, and it feels owned, and it lands different, right? Or if I say, and it feels owned, it lands different. There's a difference, right? The pauses and all the other stuff that goes together in owning the language of just what I just said, right? Right. So that's coherence. Does it feel intentional? Does it belong together? Bold plus coherent equals confident. Bold plus messy equals trying too hard. Coherence turns notice into respect. People don't just read clothes, they read people. This is where the topic gets deeper than fashion, because a lot of people think they can improve social response by changing the outside only. Better clothes, better haircuts, better shoes, better watch, better car, better whatever. That can help, sometimes a lot. But people don't just read the clothes, they react to the person carrying them or wearing them. They react to the emotional tone underneath them. They react to whether the person seems comfortable in their own presentation or whether they seem like they're using the presentation to beg for approval. And people feel that faster than most people actually realize. You can't just dress up like a peacock, but have chickadee energy behind it. It just doesn't go together. Something seems off. It's like somebody forced you to put that on. You understand? You can have somebody who looks great on paper, but the second you talk to them, there's tension, there's stiff guardedness, there's overly self aware or performing. They don't feel easy, they don't feel open, they don't feel socially breathable. And then you can have somebody else who is not nearly as naturally gifted on the surface, but they seem grounded, relaxed, genuinely there, not performing every second, not squeezing the interaction for validation, not trying to overpower the room. They feel easier to be around. That person may get less raw attention now, but more real interaction. And that's the huge difference. So understand that people read more than your clothes, your presentation, your tone, posture, ease, congruence. People read the whole person. Social permission. This might be the most important part of this entire episode. There is a difference between somebody noticing you and somebody feeling comfortable enough to respond to you. And that gap is everything. I've seen people who clearly get attention from others, but those same others stay guarded around them. They admire them from a distance, from afar, maybe even envy them, maybe even want their approval, but they do not relax around them. They do not open up around them. They do not feel free around them. Then I've seen people who are not the obvious star, but other people feel comfortable speaking to them. Joking with them, complimenting them, asking them things, confiding in them, pulling them into the real social flow of the room. Why? Because those people create social permission. They feel safe enough to engage, not weak, not soft in a bad way, not fake nice, just socially receivable. They don't make people pay a tax to interact with them. They don't radiate judgment. They don't radiate bitterness. They don't radiate pressure. They don't radiate hunger. They don't make every interaction feel like it has to be something. That matters more than people think, because when people feel safe enough to respond, they often say things they otherwise would have kept to themselves. And that is where a lot of real social advantage actually lives. So, the social performance, not just notice or being noticed, being easy to engage, safe to speak to, low social friction, people respond when they feel at ease. Signals and safety. If I had to reduce this whole episode to two words, it would probably be these: signal and safety. Signal is what makes people notice you. Safety is what makes people comfortable in responding to you. A lot of people have one without the other. Some people have signals without safety. They look good, sound sharp, have status, have edge, have something striking about them, but people don't relax around them. They get seen but not entered. Other people have safety without signals. They're supposedly, as they say, good people. You know what I mean? Nice people, easy enough to talk to, but nothing about them crosses the threshold strongly enough to create actual real notice. So they get appreciated once someone already knows them, but they don't pull much reaction up front. The sweet pot, sweet pot. The sweet spot is when both are there. You show up clearly enough to be noticed, you carry yourself well enough to be respected, and you feel easy enough to be approached. That is where social gravity starts. Not dominance, not hype, not fake confidence, social gravity. So we're looking at signal and safety. Signaling or signal each equals people notice you. Signal me equals people respond to you. But one without the other is limited. Social gravity needs both. Why some people feel invisible. Now let's talk about the people this episode is actually really for. People who feel invisible, my friend. People who feel ordinary. People who feel like they're outclassed. People who feel like the room keeps choosing someone else. People who think maybe they just don't have whatever it takes. I think a lot of those people who don't think that they have that thing, that whatever it is, are misreading their own problem. They think they have no value. Sometimes that's not true at all. Sometimes the real issue is that their value is not being translated in individual form. It's buried, or buried, as some would say, under weak presentation, vague communication, tension, inconsistency, poor grooming, defensive energy, social hesitation, or a lack of anything distinct enough for the other people to register. In other words, they are not necessarily empty, they are just blurry. And blurry is and blurry is deadly in a social life. Because people remember what is clear. Remember, I was talking about the singing? They remember what is coherent again. They remember what feels distinct. They remember what creates ease. If you are a so called good person, but socially blurry, people may still appreciate you over time, but you won't pull much reaction up front from the get go. That doesn't mean you're doomed, it means you need stronger translation. So, as I said, why people feel invisible? Weak signals, blurry presentation, vague communication, defensive energy, no distinct feel, and good person, unclear signal. Sorry. So let's talk about style for a minute, because style does matter. Style is one entry point, not the whole answer. But not in the shallow way people often talk about it. Style matters because it is the one of the fastest visible signals you are or you can control. Sorry. Before you speak, people have already started reading. What, you say? They read whether you care, whether you notice yourself, whether you look deliberate, whether you understand how to put things together, whether you seem aware of context, whether your presentation creates ease. That's real. Confusion or pressure, right? That's real. But style is not magic. Style is one entry point. It can increase notice. It can create a better first read. It can separate you from the background. It can make you register as it can make you easier, to remember. But if the rest of you feels off, the style won't save you. So I think the better way to look at style is this: not as decoration, not as vanity, but as trying to look rich or cool. Not trying to look rich or cool, but as one of reducing social invisibility. One clear visual signal can do a lot, especially if the rest of you supports it. So again, style as a signal. One of the fastest visible cues, of course, your style. Increase in notice, improve first read. It's not magic. Style helps, but the person has to carry it well. Warmth is underrated. Here's something I think a lot of people get backwards. They chase respect so hard that they accidentally kill warmth. They want to look serious. They want to look strong. They want to look unbothered. They want to look above it. They want to look hard to impress. And then they wonder why nobody opens up around them. Warmth is underrated. And I don't mean fake smile nonsense. Like, hey, how you doing? No, fake cracked up smile. I mean emotional ease. The feeling that you're not going to punish someone for interacting with you. The feeling that you can handle normal human contact without turning it into contest, a performance, or an ego negotiation. That kind of warmth creates space. And space is where people speak. It's where they make comments. It's where they fake joke. It's where they trust. It's where they trust, sorry. It's where they exhale. A lot of socially successful people are not just attractive or competent. They are breathable. That's the word I would use, I guess. Breathable. People don't tighten up around them. That's a big advantage. So warmth is underrated. Warmth is not weakness. Warmth lowers friction. Warmth creates space, and people open up where they can breathe. Humor, tone, and ease. Humor matters too, but not just any humor. A lot of people use humor defensively. They become sarcastic, they become cutting, they become cool, they become the person who always has a line but never really lets anybody in. That can get laughs sometimes, but it doesn't always create connection. The better kind of humor creates ease. It lowers tension. It helps keep things human. It shows that you're not rigid. It helps people feel like the interaction has room for it. Same with tone. Some people say perfectly fine things in a tone that creates discomfort. Other people can say something simple, but because their tone is calm, grounded, and easy, it lands better. That's why social life is not just about content. It's about delivery, rhythm, timing, pressure, ease. It's about what people feel while they're talking to you. A lot of people ignore that because they are not focused and on the surface level words, I guess. Well, that's what they do. So, humor and ease, remember, humor can connect or defend. Better humor lowers tension. Tone matters, delivery matters. People remember how interactions felt. Reputation and distinctiveness. Another thing people underestimate is reputation. What are you known for? Most people are too blurry here to. I guess most people are too blurry here. They want to be generally liked. That's enough. Yeah. People remember clean signals. They remember calm ones, sharp ones, the stylish ones, the funny ones, the dependable one, the thoughtful one, the one to whom all this keep falling. Why is that falling? Right. The ones who make others comfortable, the ones who always show up composed. If nothing about you is clear, you become harder to hold in people's minds. And this matters for everyone, not just influencers or public people. It matters at work. It matters socially. It matters in families. It matters in friendships. It matters anywhere humans sort each other by felt impression. Distinctiveness is not about being extreme. It's about being legit or legible enough to remember. So remember, reputation and distinctiveness. What are you known for? People remember clear signals. Distinct is not the same as extreme. And legible people are easier to remember. What to do if you feel overlooked? There we go. So if somebody's listening to this feels overlooked, where should they start? Not with self-hatred, not with resentment, not with trying to become somebody else's overnight or somebody become somebody else overnight. Start with clarity. Ask yourself, what do people notice first? What do they read from me quickly? Do I look intentional? Do I feel easy to talk to? Do I create comfort or friction? What one thing am I known for? What one visual or behavior signals could I strengthen? And that's a better starting point than how do I become more attractive? Because a lot of people cannot become elite looking. That's just the way it is, right? But you can become cleaner, clearer, better put together, warmer, funnier, more grounded, more readable, more memorable, more ease. And those things matter. Maybe not as much as beauty in every context, but enough to change a lot more than people think. If you look, if you feel overlooked, start with clarity, right? Remember, strengthen one signal, improve ease, improve readability, because we need to be more intentional. And at the same time, don't be fake. It doesn't work. So when I say social gravity, I'm not talking about being the most beautiful person in the room. I'm not talking about becoming a performer. I'm not talking about chasing empty attention or trying to manipulate people into liking you. I'm talking about learning how to become more perceptible, more coherent, and more comfortable to engage. Because that's what a lot of people are actually missing. It's not worth, not depth, not humanity, not even necessarily confidence. Sometimes what they're missing is translation. The world can only respond to what it can notice, understand, and safely move toward. And if what you're bringing into the world is buried under blur, inconsistency, social tension, or weak signals, then people may never really get close enough to see what's there. That doesn't mean there's nothing there. It just means the signals are just not landing. And once you understand that, the whole thing becomes more practical. You stop looking at the world like it only rewards genetically, amazingly status people. You stop asking, how do I become a different person? You stop assuming that because someone else gets more immediate attention, that also get more trust, more warmth, more ease, more real social power. You start realizing there are different kinds of social advantages, and some of them can actually be built in. So if you've ever felt invisible, overlooked, passed over, or socially blurry, I don't think the answer is to become louder. I don't think the answer is to become fake. I don't think the answer is to make copies of whatever you see the hottest person or the flashiest person doing. I think the answer is to become clearer. Clearer is how you show up. Clearer is how you dress. Clearer in how you speak. Clearer in the way clearer in what you're known for, clearer in how people feel around you. Because in the end, the people who pull the most meaningful response out of the world are not always the ones who are most admired from a distance. A lot of the time, they're the ones who are easiest to notice, easiest to read, and easiest to move toward. And if you can build that, you don't need to win every room. You just stop disappearing inside of it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Hopefully you kind of got what I was saying, and hopefully you understand why I did it. But really pay attention to your interactions, maybe today or tomorrow at work or at school or church or the mall or wherever you go. Are you invisible, or do you catch a lot of eyes? Do people line up to try to talk to you, or are they hiding from you? Anyway, this is all just my thoughts. Take care until next time. This is MCM signing off. Peace out, y'all.
Hey, come check out You Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 ducks. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.